So far, what we have done is to go in and draw our demand and supply curves separately, just to show how the buyers and sellers will behave as the market price changes. What we want to show now is, let's bring the demanders and sellers together in a market and watch them haggle over price and quantity. So we have our demanders that come into the market with all they know about their tastes and preferences, how much money they have, what the prices of other goods and services are, and what those other goods and services are that they can go out and purchase. Then we're going to bring in the sellers into this market with their upward sloping supply curve and all the information they have about how many units they have to sell, what the price of those units were, their overhead cost, and so on. And what will happen is that the buyer and seller will haggle over this market price. And if we're lucky, what we're going to get is a situation of what we call equilibrium. Equilibrium occurs where the quantity demanded is equal to the quantity being supplied. So in this case, we're going to say, let's say our equilibrium is equal to $5 per unit, and at that $5, as you draw your line across where it strikes the supply curve, let's say buyers would be willing and able to buy, let's say, 200 units of the good. At the same time, at the price of $5, sellers would say, I'm willing and able to buy 200 units of the good. So it is true in equilibrium that the quantity demanded is going to be equal to the quantity that's being supplied. This is also called the market clearing price. Because at this price, both the buyers and the sellers are happy with the price that is prevailing in the market, therefore no further action is needed by either party, and there's no tendency for the price to either go up or go down. Now, when we're dealing with equilibrium, we know that both the buyers and the sellers are happy with that particular situation. But the problem we get into is that a lot of times the price that is on a good or service is not actually the equilibrium price. Here's what I mean by that. Let's go in and draw a market with our downward sloping demand curve and our upward sloping supply curve. And let's just assume for the moment that we have an equilibrium price in the market, we'll call it P naught, of let's say $10. And at $10, quantity demanded would be equal to quantity supplied at, let's say, 100 units of the good. Now, there are always a number of disturbances that run through these markets. We'll talk about those disturbances later. But let's assume for the moment that the going market price for this good, we'll call it P1, is going to be above our equilibrium. Let's say it's going to be selling for $15. Now, what I want you to remember is there is a distinct difference between the equilibrium price, right, the market clearing price, and the price that is prevailing on the market, in this case $15. So when you walk into the store and you pick up the good, the going market price that is going to be on that good is going to be the $15. So at $15, if you draw a line all the way across, a dotted line that strikes the demand and the supply curve, you would say that at the price of $15, right here where it strikes the demand curve, that would be the amount that demanders would be willing and able to buy. So that's going to be your quantity that is going to be demanded. And let's just say that happens to be 50 units of the good. You notice that is less than what it was before, because we know as the price goes up, quantity demanded goes down. Also at the price of $15, where you draw it over and it strikes a supply curve, that is going to be your quantity that is being supplied, the amount that the seller is going to be willing and able to sell. And let's just say in this case that happens to be 150 units of the good. Now you notice that went up, which it should, because as price goes up, there's more profit to be made, and therefore the seller would be willing to let more of those goods go on the market. But what you notice here is a situation where the quantity that is being supplied is greater than the quantity that is being demanded. And if that is the case in a market, we have what is called a surplus. Now, a surplus is the difference between the demand and the supply curve at the going market price. So in other words, in this particular case, we can go in and find out how much damage is being done to this market by taking the quantity that is being supplied, which is right here, minus the quantity that is being demanded. So in this case, our surplus is going to be equal to our quantity that is being supplied, which is 150 units, minus the quantity being demanded, which is 50 units. So we have a surplus in this market equal to 100 units of the good. Now, the problem that we have in this situation is there's somebody that's not happy. Remember, I made mention in an earlier video that if you're in equilibrium, both the buyer and the seller are happy with that market price. Well, in this case, the price is above equilibrium, so therefore both parties are actually unhappy. The demanders are unhappy because they're having to pay a higher price, and demanders never like higher prices. Sellers are actually unhappy with this as well, even though the price is higher, because even though the price, you would say that they are willing and able to sell 150 units of the good, how much are they actually selling? 50 units of the good, which is less than what they were selling before in equilibrium at 100 units. So the result of this is that the price of $15 is not going to be allowed to prevail in the market. And in fact, there's going to be downward pressure on the price to get us back to equilibrium. So there's going to be downward pressure on the price. We know then that as price goes down, quantity demanded is going to go up. All right, so we're going to move down and along the demand curve as the price goes down, moving us back towards equilibrium. We also know that as the price goes down, quantity supplied is going to go down, because as the price goes down, we're going to move down along the supply curve. There's going to be less profit, and therefore the suppliers are going to go in and pull some units off the shelves. And as the price goes down, it will continue to drop to the point where we reach equilibrium at the price of $10. And at that price, sellers will say, hey, I'm willing and able to sell 100 units of the good. And demanders will say, at the price of $10, I'm willing and able to buy 100 units of the good. Quantity demanded is equal to quantity supplied, and the market clears.